Hello, my lovelies. It is time for another round of Have I Read It? Special edition. So stay tuned. So last year was my third year of doing Have I Read It? And I decided I wanted to do like a special edition and tell you how I did for that first year of Have I Read It? You know, out of all the unread books that were still remaining, how I did. And then I put whatever was left on my little book tree back here. And I gave myself 1 year to read or unhaul all of those books. And I just recently filmed how that turned out. And so now it's time for me to tell you how I did for the second year of Have I Read It? Now, in the second year, things changed because I started also reacting to my book outlet hauls, which were absolutely absurd in the beginning. Oh yeah. So this took a really long time to prepare for because, for one, instead of having 12 Have I Read It that I had to go back over and check, I had 24 in the second year. So I did numbers 13 all the way through 36. And some of them I've done good, and others I have done really, really poorly. So all these books you see behind me, and there are rows of them, these are all books that are unread from all of those Have I Read It. So at the beginning, going through, I had 358 unread in that second year. Out of all of those unread, I have read and kept 34. I've read and unhauled 23. I've unhauled 101, which that was impressive. Which left me with 200 books that I was going to have to bring down here. I was just like, oh my gosh, 200 books are not going to fit on this shelf. Now, there were 15 books that I went ahead and decided right off the bat I'm going to go ahead and save. Those were collector books, like my antique books and things like that. And I don't want them to be mixed up with these on that shelf or anywhere. So I'm not even going to count those 15. So taking those off. And then when I was gathering the rest of the books, there were 12 that I could not find. And I'm going to assume that most of them, from thinking about it, I'm pretty sure they've actually gotten unhauled. Most were probably unhauled before we moved into this house, and that's why I couldn't find them. So that left 173 books. That's what I have here. So we're going to go over how each of these Have I Read It did. And then I'm going to have to cull these down. I'm going to have to go ahead and unhaul some of these in this video because there's no way I'm going to get through all of these. And like, I would literally have to read nothing but the books here for the entire year in order to complete them. So I'm going to go ahead and do myself a favor and go through and get rid of some that I don't think I'm interested in any longer. So you're kind of going to get to see an unhaul as we go. Let me move so I'm more center here. That's a little better. Okay, so for Have I Read It number 13, I had 12 unread. Of those 12, I read and kept 0. I read and unhauled 1. I unhauled 7, and that leaves 4 left. So of those 4, we have the Spike graphic novel omnibus. This is going on my shelf. I have the complete series Spike graphic novel. This is also going on my shelf. Next was Maid of Secrets by Jennifer McGowan. This is the first book in the Maids of Honor series, and it's set in like Queen Elizabeth I time, and there's a group of women, her maids in waiting or whatever, but they're actually like guards and stuff for her. But I think this is one that I'm going to pass on. And you will see the others come up in the future from part of this series. I think this is just something that's going to go. Also was The Krampus Chronicles, The Three Sisters by Sonia Halbach. I think that I started to read this at one point and then DNF'd it maybe, or soft DNF'd it, just didn't feel like it at the time. But I think that this is just, it's going to go. Okay, so for Have I Read It number 14, I had 6 unread. I read and kept 2. I read and unhauled 0. I unhauled 3, and that left 1, which was Stars Above by Marissa Meyer. This is a Lunar Chronicles collection, and I can't believe that I never actually got around to reading this. But this one is definitely going to stay on the shelf because I've read the rest of the series and I want to finish this. So here's where things start getting dicey. So for Have I Read It number 15, there were 47 unread. So of those 47, I've read and kept 7. I've read and unhauled 4. I've unhauled 1. And there are 35 remaining. Yeah. Just with that one video. Okay. Alright, so there were a few box sets. So the first one here is Fable Haven by Brandon Mull. I want to give this a shot. I have a feeling I'm really going to like Brandon Mull's writing. So this one is one I'm going to keep. It may not actually go on the shelf. I may stick it beside the shelf because it is a box set. So we'll see. Next is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I know that I started reading this at one point. I was buddy reading it with Drew from Drew's Ambitious Reading. But I had so many other buddy reads going on at the time. And I think I was at Y'all Fest at the time. And there was just so much going on that I was just like, I can't. I'm sorry. I just can't keep doing it. Though I was very much enjoying it. So this one is going to stay. Okay, next is Grace and Fury by Tracy Banghart. This is one that I was kind of like, I don't know. I'm kind of interested, but I can also maybe let it go. So I think I'm going to put this in like a maybe pile for now, and we'll see how things look at the end. All right, next is The Legend of Greg, an epic series of failures by Chris Rylander. This was an Al Crate Jr. book, and I'm really not very interested, so this one's going to go. Okay, the next two are Banished and Wanted by Betsy Chow. I read the first book, Spelled, I think it was. Either Spell or Spelled. And I loved it, but I never got around to continuing on, and I do want to. So these are going to stay. Okay, next is The Storm Runner by J.C. Cervantes. This was another, I think, Al Crate Jr. book, and I'm just not as interested, so this one's going to go. Next is Not Even Bones by Rebecca Schaefer, and I do think I'm interested in reading this. And I think I have the sequel as well, so this one's going to stay. Okay, next is Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. I think this was an Al Crate book. Oh no, it was a Bookie Box. Anyway, this one is like female pirates, and I'm not really that interested, so this one's gonna go. Okay, next is Fury Born by Claire Legrand, and I've heard really good things about this. I do have the sequel to it. I think I'm going to put this one in the maybe. I'm pretty sure it's a yes, but I'm going to put it in the maybe for right now. Okay, the next 3 books I have are Deep Blue, Rogue Wave, and Dark Tide by Jennifer Donnelly. I feel like this was like a Little Mermaid retelling, and I know I actually have the 4th book as well, so I think I want to keep this one. Okay, then I have some self-published books. I have Other Side Tales by S.W. Heaton III. I've got Forged in Time, The Tears of Time, and The Smoke Riders. And I forget what he said, but there's like a retelling kind of aspect to it. I want to say something about, if I remember correctly, he said something about like Alice in Wonderland or something like that. So I do want to give these a shot. And then I have another self-published book. These I got from, these and the other ones I got from the Decatur Book Festival forever ago. But these are the Keeper of the Essence series. I've got Creature of Darkness, Water's Maiden, Master of Air, and Nature's Lady. So I do want to keep these as well. Then I have The Darkest Legacy by Alexandra Bracken, and I'm going to keep this one. Okay, next is another series. I have the Burn for Burn series by Jenny Han and Saban Vivian. So I've got Burn for Burn, Fire with Fire, and Ashes to Ashes. And I really like Jenny Han's writing, so I think I want to keep this one as well. I'm not getting rid of enough right now. Okay, next is Two Dark Reigns by Kendar Blake. This is the third book in this series, and I've read the first two, and I don't feel compelled to continue. So I think I'm actually going to unhaul this, but also I'm going to go and get the rest of them, and not right this second, but I'm going to go and get the rest of them and unhaul them as well. Okay, then we got another box set. This is another Brandon Mull one. It's The Beyonders. And again, I want to at least give it a chance. So this is going to probably be stacked on the side with the other one. Okay, and then the last two on that Have I Read It was Another Day and Someday by David Levithan. And I think I'm going to put these in the maybe. I very much remember reading and liking Every Day a long time ago. I've actually got these signed and personalized as well. But I don't know if I'm interested enough to continue. I think the first one was fine. All right, in my Have I Read It number 16, there were only 9 unread. Of those, I read and kept 1, read and unhauled 1, unhauled 5, and that leaves 2 remaining. So the 2 were Trial by Fire by Josephine Angelini. This is such a floppy paperback. Okay, after reading the back, I am still interested in this. So that one's going to stay. Though this is not a standalone because it says don't miss the next book in the World Walker trilogy. So then we have Deception by CJ Redwine. And this is, I think, either the sequel or the finale to the Defiant series. I think this series is one that I'm going to go ahead and unhaul. So when I get to the others, which are also in these stacks, we'll be able to unhaul them. Okay, on to Have I Read It number 17. There were 20 unread here. Of those, I've read and kept 2. Read and unhauled 0. Unhauled 4. And there are 14 remaining. So the first is The Shadow Cabinet by Maureen Johnson. This is, I think, book 3 in the Shades of London series. I could have sworn that I actually finished this series, but I didn't mark it. So until I start reading this, I'm not going to know for certain. I was enjoying the series, so I do want to keep this. Okay, the next is the Obsidian Mirror series or trilogy. We have Obsidian Mirror, and this is by Catherine Fisher. The Slanted Worlds and The Door in the Moon. I love these covers. However, I read Incarceron by her and didn't really care for it all that much. And reading the back, I'm not like super pulled in, interested. So I think I'm going to get rid of these. Then I have another series here. This is the Mouse Heart Trilogy box set. And this looks very cute. I do want to give this a chance. So this is going to go with the other box sets. Okay, the next 3 books are the Game Trilogy. So we have Rush, Push, and Crash by Eve Silver. These, apparently, you're pulled into a game and they've got to defeat these alien creatures and their survival depends on it. I'm interested, but I'm not like, yes, I have to have this. So I think these are going to go in my maybe stack. Okay, next is Wondrous Strange by Leslie Livingston. I was just looking over the back and I'm just not as interested anymore, so that one's going to go. And then the last one is Deliverance by CJ Redwine, so that one is also going to go. All right. Then from Have I Read It number 18, I had 21 unread. Of those, I've read and kept 5, read and unhauled 3, unhauled 8, and that leaves 5 remaining. So the first 2 are The Treatment and The Remedy by Suzanne Young. Marty and I read the first book in this series, The Program, and really enjoyed it, but we never ended up continuing. So I do want to continue with this. So these are staying. And then the other 3 are The Arcana Chronicles by Cressley Cole. This is another box set, and I'm interested enough. So I want to at least give them a shot. So these are going to go with the other box sets. All right, from Have I Read It number 19, there were 10 unread. From those, I read and kept 2. I read and unhauled 0. I unhauled 2, and that leaves 6 remaining. So the first one is Frail by Tasha Deaza, and I recently gave I had 2 copies of this. I gave 1 copy to my friend across the street, and her daughter both read it and enjoyed it. So I do want to give it a chance. Okay, next is Anti Darken by Kirsten White. And this is like a gender bent Dracula retelling, I think. Or Vladimir the Impaler. And I don't know. I'm not really all that interested. So this one's going to go. I'm having to be kind of brutal with these cuts because there are so many of them. And yeah, I need to make my decisions. Okay, next up is The Wizards of Once, Twice Magic. We got the first one of these in an Owl Crate Junior, and we actually really enjoyed it. It was super cute. So I do want to save this one. Next is Boldly Go, Star Trek by, I don't even know who. And I don't really care enough about this. So this one's going to go. It's probably going to be unhauled to Marty. I did get this for him initially and thought I might actually read it, but it's been years sitting on my shelf and I haven't given it to him to read and I haven't read it. So it's time for me to give it to him. Next is Biff to the Future by Bob Gale, and I have loved every single one of these Back to the Future graphic novels. They've all been 5 stars. So this one is definitely going to stay. Now this next one's an interesting one. It is The Good Demons by Jimmy Colles. And I'm a little bit torn on this one because I'm kind of interested in it, but also I'm like, I don't know. So I think this one might also go into my maybe pile. All right, I don't think we're doing too terribly so far anyway. Let's see. Well, we still got a ways to go. Okay, so for Have I Read It number 20, I had 20 unread. I read and kept 1. I read and unhauled 2. I unhauled 10, and that left me with 7. So the first one is Anastasia and Her Sisters by Carolyn Meyer. I remember watching I don't think it's Disney, but whoever did the animated movie Anastasia, and I loved it. And I was kind of like obsessed with Anastasia there for a while. So I am interested in keeping this one. Okay, next is As Simple as Snow by Gregory Galloway. This also follows a girl named Anastasia. But it's like a thriller or mystery, and I'm still interested. So that one's going to stay. Okay, next is Absolute Brightness by James Lesence. I don't know. And after reading the synopsis, I am still interested. I have a feeling this one's going to hurt, but that one's going to stay. Okay, next is The Way to Game, The Walk of Shame by Jen P. Wynn. And part of me was thinking right off the bat, nope, it's got to go. But then, like, I don't know. I'm kind of interested in reading it, so maybe I'll put this one in the maybe. Okay, next up is Sanctuary Bay by Laura J. Burns and Melinda Metz. And this seems like another thrillery kind of book, so I am still interested in this one. I'm going to have to put this down here, though, because this stack's getting pretty high. Okay, next up is Visions by Lisa McMahon. This is a thick book, but actually, I think it's actually 3 books in one. And I am interested. I've heard really good things about this. It was something that somebody recommended to me a long time ago. So this one's going to stay. Next up is Arcadia Awakens by Kai Meyer. And after doing like a quick little scan of the synopsis, I don't really know if I'm interested in this one. So it's going to go. And that was the last one from Have I Read It number 20. On to number 21. In this one, there were 15 unread. So I read and kept 1, read and unhauled 1, unhauled 2, and that leaves me with 11. So the first one we have is The Strange Fascinations of Noah Hypnotic by David Arnold. I do have this one signed and personalized, and I feel like this one's a maybe. Part of me is like, with that one, it's kind of like, no, go ahead, get rid of it. But then the other part of me is like, well, I am kind of interested, and I got it personalized, but that's why it's going in the maybe. Okay, next is Give the Dark My Love by Beth Rivas. I was just going over the synopsis, and it doesn't really sound like something I'm super interested in, so that's going to go. All right, then I have Dragon Watch by Brandon Mull. This is kind of what do you call it? A spinoff of the Fablehaven series. Yeah, it's a sequel series to Fablehaven. So I want to keep this one too for now. So the next one is Dark of the West by Johanna Hathaway. And this doesn't really tell me a whole lot, but what it does tell me enough is that I'm not interested enough. So that one's going to go. Then I have Voices by David Elliott. This is a Joan of Arc kind of retelling. And I read another book by him called Bull and loved it. And I'm very excited to read this. So this one is staying. Okay, next is Bloodleaf by Crystal Smith. And for one, this cover is stunning. And this is just the arc. But the back I'm torn on, because I'm like, I am interested, but I don't know. So this one's going to go in my maybe. Next is Every Moment After by Joseph Moldover. And after reading the back, I'm not interested enough, though. It's about like a school shooting, sort of. It's 2 people that survived a first grade school shooting, and now they're graduating high school. Next is This Book Is Not Yet Rated by Peter Bagnani. I think this is one that I can also let go. Next is Spark by Sarah Beth Durst, and this gives me the Golden Dragon from Fourth Wing vibes. I don't know. I know it's not, but still, I'm keeping it. Next is We Contain Multitudes by Sarah Henstra. And I think I'm going to let this one go as well. And then I have Briar and Rose and Jack by Catherine Coville. And I think I'm going to keep this one because it just seems cute. Okay, so that was everything from 21 on to Have I Read It number 22, which had 29 unread. Of those, I read and kept 4. I read and unhauled 0. I unhauled 4, which left 21. Yeah. Okay, next is Minders by Michelle Jaffe, and I think I'm going to let this one go as well. Okay, next is Memoirs of a Teenage Amnesiac by Gabrielle Zevin, and I am interested in this one, so I think this one's going to stay as well. Okay, then there's Oblivion by Kelly Krieg. This is, I don't know which book in the Nevermore series, which again, I thought I had completed, and I may not be certain until I start rereading this or reading it for the first time. But this one's going to stay as well. Okay, next is The Girl of Midnight by Melissa Gray. And I think I'm going to let this one go. It's so pretty though. And I know that there's another one in this stack somewhere in this series, because this is the first book in the series. So when we get to that, I'm going to unhaul it. Oh, also, I have set off to the side Defiance and the Savage Dawn, which this is the last book in that The Girl of Midnight series. These were not in one of those Have I Read It, but since I'm getting rid of the other books in the series, these are going to go. Next, we have Scan and Burn by Walter Jury and Sarah Fine. I'm still interested in these, so I think I'm going to keep them as well. Next is I Remember You by Kathleen DeWitt Bell, and I'm still very interested in this one, so that one's going to stay as well. All right, next is Naked by Stacey Trombley, and after reading the back, I'm not so interested. So moving on, next is The Cage by Ruth Minsky Cinder. I think I'm going to let this one go as well. Then I have The Gallery by Laura Marks Fitzgerald. Okay, I'm still interested in this one, so that's going to stay. Next is Map of Fates and The Conspiracy of Us by Maggie Hall. And I know The Conspiracy of Us is the first book. This one's a tough call. This one I think is going to go in my maybe. Okay, next is another trilogy. I have The Winter's Curse, The Winter's Crime, and The Winter's Kiss. And I'm torn on this one. I'm not sure how I feel. So I think I'm going to put this in the maybe. Next I have Of Metal and Wishes and Of Dreams and Rust. And this is another one I'm not entirely sure about. So I'm going to put it in my maybe stack. Oh my goodness. My maybe stack is almost as tall as this stack. It's like to here right now. Okay. All right, next is Maid of Deception, which is part of the Maids of Honor series, so that one can go. And then we have Disclaimer by Renee Knight. I just read this tiny little bit here and was like, yeah, I'm still interested. It says, what if you realized the terrifying book you were reading was all about you? That got me. So I'm still interested. So the last one in that one is Like No Other by Una LaMarche. And I think this is another one I'm going to go ahead and let go. Okay, so for Have I Read It number 23, I had 40 unread. Of those, I've read and kept 0. I've read and unhauled 1. I've unhauled 16, but that still leaves 23 remaining. We're getting to these farther back stacks, so I'm going to move us a little bit more this way. Okay, next up we have Catalyst and Control by Lydia Kang. This is a duology. I think that these are ones that I can get rid of. Also, my SD card is getting full, so I'll go as long as I can. Next is Life Unaware by Cole Gibson. Meh, I think this one can go as well. Okay, then we have The Epidemic and the Adjustment by Suzanne Young. So these are also going to stay because they're part of the program. Okay, next is Gingerbread, Cupcake, and Shrimp by Rachel Cohn. and I am still interested. So, oh, yeah, okay. I now have almost 2 stacks this tall, plus the 4 box sets. And we still got a few more stacks to go through. Okay, next is The Cipher by John C. Ford, and after reading it, I think I'm going to let that one go as well. Then I have Chasing Shadows by Sawati Aveshthi, and I am still interested in this one, so I think I'm going to save that. This one's another maybe. That was Deadly Design by Deborah Doctor. Next is Vesper by Jeff Sampson, and I don't think I'm all that interested in that one anymore. Then we have The Fairy Ring by Kiki Hamilton, and I think I'm going to let this one go as well. Then we have The Blood Coven Vampires Volume 1. I think I'm going to let that one go as well. Okay, next is The Orphan Queen by Jody Meadows, and I don't think I'm all that interested in this anymore, and I know the sequel is in this stack as well. This is part of the Girl at Midnight series, so this one's going to go. Okay, next is Dead City by James Ponti. We have Dead City 1, Blue Moon, and Dark Days. And these are like middle grade zombie books, so those are going to go. Okay, next is A Crown of Wishes by Roshani Chashki. I also have in these stacks the Star Touch Queen, and I am still interested in these, so those are going to stay as well. Okay, the last two for that Have I Read It are The Vault of Dreams and The Rule of Mirrors by Karag M. O'Brien. And I'm still very interested in these, so those are going to stay as well. Now I have 2 stacks this high, plus the 4 box sets that are all stays. And still, I have a maybe pile that goes up to here. All right, for Have I Read It number 24, there were 7 unread. Of those, I read and kept 2. I read and unhauled 1. I unhauled 0. And I have 4 remaining. So the first one is Once Again by Liz Braswell and Cameron Doki. And this is like, there's I think 2 stories in here. Yeah, Snow and Beauty Sleep. And they're retellings. So I am still interested in these. So we're going to add that to the stack. Next is The Beast Within by Serena Valentino. And this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So I'm going to keep this one too. These stacks are so big. Then we have Once Upon a Dream, Twisted Tale by Liz Braswell. I'm going to keep this one as well. I need to start a new stack. Then we have The Star Touched Queen, which, as I mentioned before, I'm going to keep. And we've made it to the halfway point of the Have I Read It's that I had to go back on. Though I think we've gone way more than halfway through the stack of books, so. All right, for Have I Read It number 25, I had 7 unread. Of those, I read and kept 0. I read and unhauled 2. I unhauled 2, and I have 4 remaining. So the first one is The Empress by S.J. Kincaid. This is the sequel to The Diabolic, and I remember reading that and enjoying it. So this one's going to stay. Then I have Maids of Wonder, which is another one of the Maids of Honor series. So that one's going to go. Oh, sorry. There were 4 left, but 2 of those were ones that were some of the unfound ones. So with Have I Read It number 26, I had 3 unread. I read and unhauled 2 of them, and I unhauled 1 of them. Have I Read It number 27, there were 3 unread. I read and kept 1, had 2 remaining, but those 2 were ones that I think I may have unhauled, and they were unfound. Then from Have I Read It number 28, I had 6 unread. I read and kept 1. I read and unhauled 0. I unhauled 4, which left 1 remaining, and that was The Lost Girls by Heather Young. I think I'm going to let this one go as well. For Have I Read It number 29, there were 8 unread. Of those, I read and kept 0. I read and unhauled 1. I unhauled 0. And that's it. I had 7 remaining, though there were 2 that were unfound. So we have 5. First is Famous Last Words by Jennifer Salvato Doktorski. I think I'm going to let this one go. Okay, my SD card is full, so let me go change that out and I'll be right back. Okay, SD card is changed. Sorry if the angle changed. Next book is The Lovely Reckless by Cami Garcia. I think this is one I'm going to let go. Okay, next is Get Well Soon and Have a Nice Day by Julie Halpern. And I think I'm going to let these go. Okay, next up is Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendar Blake. And I am still interested in this one. Plus, Cassandra Clare blurbed it and said spellbinding and romantic. And if you've ever watched the show Supernatural, which I have caught like maybe an episode, I think maybe the first episode. But there was something, I want to say in that very first episode, that was like this story right here. Okay, for Have I Read It number 30, I had 3 unread. So of those, I read and kept 0, read and unhauled 1, and have 1 remaining. And that is Pivot Point by Casey West. Okay, I think I'm still interested in this one. All right, for Have I Read It number 31, there were 8 unread. Of those, I read and kept 0, read and unhauled 1, and have 6 remaining. So the first is Where We Belong by Emily Griffin. I think I'm going to let that one go. And then we have The Mirror King, which is the sequel to The Orphan Queen. So that one can also go. Then we have Hard as It Gets by Laura Kay. And I think I'm going to let this one go as well. Next is Incarnate and Asunder. And I love these covers. But I think I'm going to let these go. And the last one of those is They All Fall Down by Roxanne St. Clair. And I am still interested in this one. Okay, Have I Read It number 32. There were 10 unread. Of those, I read and kept 0. I read and unhauled 1. I unhauled 3 and have 6 remaining. So the first one is Stolen Innocence, My Story of Growing Up in a Polygamous Sect, Becoming a Teenage Bride, and Breaking Free of Warren Jeffs by Elisa Wall. And I am still interested in this one, so that one's going to stay. Next up, we have a snickerdoodle, and the book is This Monstrous Thing by Mackenzie Lee. This is a Frankenstein retelling. I think I'm going to let this one go as well. Okay, next is another box set. This is the Pledge Trilogy by Kimberly Durding. So I think I want to keep this one as well with the other box sets, at least to give the first book a shot. All right, now on to Have I Read It number 33. This one had 27 unread. Of those, I read and kept 2, read and unhauled 0, unhauled 8, and have 17 remaining. All right, this one is The Beauty of the End by Debbie Howells, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this one, so I think this one's going to be a maybe. And now we have an Einstein here. Hi, baby. Yeah. Hi. I love you too. Okay, so next up is Hollowed by Cynthia Hand. This is the second book in the Unearthly series. And this one I was kind of like, I don't know. Then I saw like the ratings on Goodreads, and it's got like over 100,000 ratings and over a 4.0. And so I figured I should give it a chance. Oh, also of those 17 that were left, 6 of those were antiques that are just staying on this shelf back here. So really, there's only 11. Okay, next is Mine by Katie Evans. And I think I'm going to let this one go as well. Okay, next is 50 Shades Darker. And I'm curious enough that I want to read the first one to see if I want to continue. So that one's going to stay. I've heard not great things, but I'm still interested. Next is Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. This one I think is going to go in my maybe because it's not the kind of thing I would normally gravitate to, but I am kind of interested. Okay, when I first picked this one up, I was like, surely this one's going to be a no. But after reading the synopsis, it's a yes. This is The Bachelorette Party by Karen McCullough Lutz. This sounds like a fun read. Okay, next is I've Got Your Number by Sophie Kinsella. And this also sounds like another fun read. So I'm going to keep that one too. Oh my goodness, my keep is huge. Though I have to say my get rid of is almost as huge. I've got 2 stacks that are probably about this tall. And one that's about half that size. Though I have a maybe stack that's also about this tall. Alright, next is Black Satin by Joan Elizabeth Lloyd. And I'm still interested in that, so that one's going to stay. Then we have Man Whore by Katie Evans. Okay, this one is in my maybe pile. Okay, next is The Space Between by Brenna Yovanov, and I think I'm going to let that one go. Next is Sex, Murder, and a Double Latte by Kyra Davis, and I think I'm going to keep that one. Oh, this next one I know I'm keeping. This is Shadow Fever by Karen Marie Mooning. This is, I don't know which book in the series. Maybe it's not the first book, is it? No, I've read the first book. This is book 5 in the Fever series. And I honestly don't remember how far back, like how long I read into that series, like how many books. I have none of them marked currently on my Goodreads, but I know I read a few books in that series, but I loved it and I wanted to collect all the books, and they're still coming out with books, and yeah, so I want to reread the whole series, so I'm definitely keeping this. And apparently this is set in the same world as the Highlander series. Alright, next is Half-Blood by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So I actually have another edition of this that somebody gifted me. So I'm going to let this one go. Oh, my bad. These two are actually from my Have I Read It number 34. I didn't even pay attention to moving on to the next one. In my Have I Read It number 34, there were 20 unread. I read and kept 0. I read and unhauled 1. I unhauled 6. And there are 13 remaining. Though of those 13, there are 7 of my antique books. So only 8, and there was one unfound, so only 7. So you've already seen 2 of them. Next is Die For Me by Amy Plum. This one is tough. I think I'm going to put this in my maybes. Alright, next is Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by Jon Huckeby. And if I remember correctly, this is actually a non-fiction. I don't know that I'm interested enough though, so I think I'm going to actually let this one go. Alright, next is The Whisper by Donato Carisi, and this seems like it's kind of a detective type thing, so I'm going to let that one go. Alright, Have I Read It number 35. There were 18 unread. Of those, I read and kept 2. I read and unhauled 0. I unhauled 13, which leaves 3 remaining. So the first one is In Too Deep by Samantha Hayes. And I think I'm still interested in that one. Oh my goodness. Next is Pink by Lily Wilkinson. And I'm still interested in that one. Then we have the Starlit Wood New Fairy Tales by Shawnee McGuire. Yep, that's all I need. I'm keeping this one. Then we have Scrooge, hashtag Worst Gift Ever by Charles Dickens and Brett Wright. I love these little books. So that one's a stay. Next is Pumpkin Picking with Murder, an Otter Lake Mystery by Oralee Wallace. And I think this one's going to stay. Oops. I got carried away. These are actually from my Have I Read It number 36. So of my Have I Read It number 36, there were 9 unread. I read and kept 1, read and unhauled 0, unhauled 1, which left 7 remaining. And of those 7, there was 1 collector book. So that brings me down to 6. And you've seen 2 of the 6. Then we have The Last Girlfriend on Earth and Other Love Stories by Simon Rich. I think I'm going to keep this one. Then we have Untamed by A.G. Howard. This one's tough because I remember reading Splintered, because this is like an Alice in Wonderland retelling. And I don't know if I finished Splintered or not, but I know I wasn't really feeling it. But I kind of want to give it another chance to see if I like it. So I think I'm going to put this as a stay for now. Then we have Greek Gods, hashtag Squad Goals, another one of those cute books. So that one's going to stay. And then the last one is If You Dare by A.R. Tor. This is book 3, I think. Book 2 or book 3 from the Girl in 6E series. And I read the first one and enjoyed it, so I do want to keep this one. Okay, so we've got a lot that I got a lot that I'm getting rid of, but I have a lot that I plan on keeping. So let me pause here for just a second so I can kind of tally up what we got. Okay, so I counted up all of the unhaul books, and that equaled 55 plus the 2 that I had sitting off to the side that I added to that. So we're at 57. And then all of the ones that I said yes I wanted to keep are right there. They did not fit. There were 95 of those. That's the 78 plus 17 in the box sets. And I was like, okay, that's 95. I have a thing about, even numbers. And so I was like, let's look at my maybe pile. And I can just add 5 more from my maybes to make it an even 100. So in my maybes, I had 23. And I selected 5. So the 5 of those that I'm going to keep Bloodleaf by Crystal Smith. The Way to Game the Walk of Shame by Jen P. Wynn. Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. Grace and Fury by Tracy Bankhart. And Furyborn by Claire Legrand. So by adding these 5 to the stack there, I have 100 there. And then the 18 remaining maybes adding to the unhaul takes those from 57 to 75. The number just flipped. That's funny. Okay, so yeah, that's it. I've given myself 100 books that I need to read before this time next year, which I think is possible, way more possible than how it started. And I have a good chunk of books that I can unhaul that I'm not as excited to read, and that can just not be taking up space on my shelves anymore, which allows me to get other stacks of books off my floors onto my shelves. So yay. Oh my goodness. So of the ones that I said yes to, which I'll show you a close-up of them, of these books, are there any that you think I should make high priority? Are there any that you think I'm not going to like or that I'm going to love? Comment down below and let me know. So here's a quick look at all the ones that I kept. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye!